Greet your neighbor.
No, right?
That's right. Today's invocation will be offered by Beth Weaver.
Let us pray. Dear Lord, we thank you for another day that you have blessed us with. We thank you for the food that we've just eaten and for the ease with which we're able to feed ourselves and to be nourished. We thank you for that blessing. We thank you for the blessing of Rotary and all the good that we're determined to do and people that are in the leadership to help to make that happen, to the blessing of our community and to a better world, to your glory. Amen.
Fine. Well, welcome everyone. Hope you all had a great week. And again, thank you to everyone that came last week to our picnic. I hope you guys enjoyed yourself. For the most part, the weather somewhat cooperated. It could have been way worse, so I was happy with what we got. But this is a picture that we were able to take down at the Founders Grove. So thought it was a good picture. And right after that, it started sprinkling on us. So we headed back up the hill. But yes, so thank you. The cooks did an amazing job. Everyone did awesome. So thank you. All right, so today's National Day is, thanks Cheryl. It's actually Senior Citizens Day. I know, right? So in 1988, Ronald Reagan declared today to honor senior citizens for their achievements and contributions. Senior Citizen Day is also a celebration of the fact that these keepers of wisdom are staying with us longer each and are in better health today. I know we have many senior citizens in this room with us today, and I appreciate you coming every single Monday and joining us. And we do truly value your wisdom to our club. So if you have a senior citizen in your life and you're still fortunate to have one, today's the day to go spend time with them. Give them a call, send them a letter, which is going to be a little too late, but let them know you're thinking about them. So today's Secretary Lynn and Secretary's report.
Thank you, President Courtney. We will also honor Senior Rotarians Day today, and that does not mean age, but that does mean service, which we are so important to have in this club. So many of our Rotarians with such great service. Dan Freeman, we're going to celebrate 40 years of service, so thank you so much. Past President Terry Snoddy has the traveling microphone, and we will start with Katie Coleman.
My guest today is Salazar, who is the owner of the Ivory Room, a bridal boutique in downtown Worcester.
We're happy to welcome our exchange students to their first official meetings and introduce themselves.
Hello, I'm Armando Quinones. I'm an exchange student from Los Mochis in Jalapa, Mexico. I'm staying in the Vales for 3 months for school. And we'll see how this stay here in Worcester. Thank you.
Hi, I'm medical head of the my husband is so funny and good, and I spend a very happy day with my husband.
Welcome, and we look forward to having you at many of our weekly meetings. President Courtney.
All right, welcome everyone, and Erica and Armando, we're excited to have you guys and joining us for our meetings this year. Today we have Jean Roberts speaking on what it means to be a connector, and I'm going to actually have Jean be introduced by Dee.
Hello, folks. Jean Bowen Roberts is an entrepreneur who wears many hats. She has a track record of connecting people and amplifying their outcomes through creative messaging and operations. She began her career in the corporate world with Limited Brands, a large retailer with a portfolio of brands, where she gained valuable experience in marketing, operations, and consumer psychology. Next, she spent a decade in program development and fundraising at 180, the Wayne County Schools Career Center, and the College of Worcester. She always had an entrepreneurial bent, though, and in 2013 took a leap of faith and started her own business, a marketing and branding agency that focused on helping businesses to grow and thrive. She and her business partner, Lauren Shippey, built a company called The Marketing Engine. Jean brings together a curated group of creators to assist clients in branding, marketing, and customer experience. She and Shippey specialize in working with businesses and nonprofit organizations to refine their operations and message to effectively reach their target audience to increase revenue and improve client retention. Jean also acts as the chief of staff of Massed Auctioneers. She coordinates logistics, staffing, team relations, and marketing for the auction teams at some of the world's most well-known auctions, Barrett-Jackson collector car auctions, basic standardbred horse sales, and more. Charged with realizing the vision of internationally known auctioneer Joseph Mast and his team of ventures, Jean has exposure to the leading auction method to create methods. Additionally, she serves as a director of sales and marketing for RES Auction Services. In that role, she's responsible for setting the direction for auction house marketing, event-specific marketing, and auctioneer brand management. At RES, she leads a successful sales and marketing team specializing in real estate, equipment, and firearms auctions. Elsewhere, she has been responsible for creating strategic communication plans for a wide spectrum of audiences, utilizing the platforms best suited to give them results. She's an Athena Young Professional Award winner, holds a BA in Family and Consumer Sciences from Bluffton University, and is an instructor at the Nashville Auction School. She and her husband, Jared, live in Worcester with their 2 daughters and pointer pup, Cleo. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Jean Roberts.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. It's really fun to be here. I see so many familiar faces in the room. I'm keeping my eye on these 2 tables back here. I see you. Yes, Matt. I'm really excited to be here. My dad, I've had a number of you ask how my dad's doing. I'm not sure if he's tuning in today, but my first Rotary meetings were always attending alongside my dad. He's doing well and recovering, and hopes to be joining you all in person soon. And I will say one of the honors, the greatest honors in my life, was having the opportunity to build this business alongside my dad. So my dad served as our director of operations for the first 2 years that we worked together, walked alongside me in everything from contracts to helping manage relationships with attorneys and insurance agents and how to go through a sales process and all of those wonderful things. So in addition to so many wonderful mentors I see in the room here, like Bobby and Lynn, it has just been such an incredible experience to walk through this with my dad. And a lot of that networking and learning came through a lot of time here or serving with you all growing up. And so that's just it's been a real honor in my life. So I hope he's tuning in and I hope he heard that. So talking about marketing and what it means to be a connector, specifically in a digital age, I had a lot of questions about, is the face-to-face or the in-person marketing or relationship development something that you still focus on? Absolutely. Absolutely. But we're going to talk a little bit about why marketing in a digital age has changed, why it's changing rapidly, what's important. And I think one of the things that I've learned over a decade of working with a lot of different organizations is that every organization is different. And the things that work for one business or one organization or one nonprofit are not necessarily going to work for another. And so we've had the privilege of working with over 100 companies over the last decade, and we've learned a lot of lessons from that. In 2020, our world's changed. We all knew that because of COVID. And so we went from 3 clients. We were really rotating a book of averaging about 3 clients in around 2020 to 56 in a period of 3 months. And so we learned a lot. We had to learn a lot very quickly. And a lot of that was because since we were all at home, there was a lot of noise coming at us, if you remember that, in a digital manner. It was hard to connect in person at that time. So there were a lot of emails going out. There were a lot of targeted digital ads. And what we learned during that time period is really one thing. Marketing is not about capturing a lead. And people over the COVID period of time really wanted to get out of that lead capture, feeling like, man, there's something that's being targeted to me that doesn't feel authentic. It feels like it's trying to reach a broad group of people, and are they really trying to reach me? So we learned this, that marketing is about connecting with people. And people really want 3 things: to be seen, to be known, and to be heard. And so what we learned was that we really have to start with strategy. We've got to walk our clients through understanding, who are you serving? Who are you truly serving? And what are they looking for from you? So what I'm going to talk to you about today is really just going through a brief lesson or a brief exercise that we go through with all of our clients when we first start. And that's really talking about identity-based strategy. So how many of you have already been delivered an ad today? Everybody, right? How many of you deleted an email that's either a monthly email or a weekly email that you received that you didn't even open? You look around the room, you see almost everyone's hands up. How many of you have been talking about something with a group of friends, and all of a sudden on a digital feed of yours, whether that's social media or you're opening up a search query on Google, and you see an ad that shows up that is exactly about that thing that you were just talking about? Aha, okay. So our digital landscape and digital marketing has really changed quite a bit and quite rapidly over the last 3 years. And really what we find is that the most important thing to do is make sure that you can break through that noise. We really want to make sure that the major areas of opportunity that we think that most of our clients have is they're putting a one-size-fits-all marketing plan out there. So we've been in meetings, and sometimes the business leader, an owner, an executive director, or a marketing leader stands up and says, our customers want this from us. This is it. This is what they're looking for, or this is why they come to us. This is the primary reason they have this service. And it's coming with internal jargon that you use that only your company knows or can understand. And oftentimes that's the base of a marketing strategy. So we say, what are they looking for from us? What sets us apart? Well, what we're missing in that is, who are we serving? So I'm going to walk you through an example of a company that we work with. This company is actually in Columbus, Ohio, Mid-States Recreation. I'm guessing probably the only people who might have heard of them in this room are people that work in school systems or within the city. They build playgrounds for large municipalities, small towns, small communities. They also build playgrounds for school systems. So they came to us because they were having a really hard time generating new business outside of showing up for trade shows. So this is the first exercise we walked through with them. Why is it important to understand who you're serving? Well, we asked the question, who do you serve? So any of you, I invite you to answer that question for yourself right now, for your own businesses and organizations, but who do we serve? The answer we got back was primarily business owners or community leaders that are somewhere between 40 and 60 years old that want to build a playground. Does that sound like a pretty normal, general description of the target audience to most of you? We actually found that they serve 7 different groups of people. When we really dug in and started asking questions, well, who do you serve? So here's a few. Principals start the search for playgrounds for their school systems often. Sometimes it's the maintenance team in their case. So sometimes it's someone showing up that's fixing the playground that says, man, this is in really bad shape and we need to get this fixed now. Sometimes as a PTA member. So a parents organization member who said, you know what, our playground really needs improvement. I know a lot of playgrounds in our community have gone through this process. So right there, those are just 3 different people who would be searching for a playground provider that have 3 very different desires. So you can see here, the principal is looking for inclusive playgrounds, academically minded solutions. And they're looking for something that's practical and an easy process for them to get their hands off. Whereas the maintenance team is really focused on what's the price, does this meet code, is it easy in terms of maintenance, is it an easy process to work with them in terms of installation. Whereas a PTA member might be looking for inclusivity, creativity, collaboration with the community, and academically minded solutions for their children. How is that different from a community or municipality? Big time, there's a huge difference here. So if we have a park director, it's a large community, they're looking for a trusted vendor, they're looking for innovation, they're looking for what other offerings do you have? Do you have servicing? Do you have coverings? Small town, somebody that's in a small area, they might not be as mindful or aware of all the other types of things that they need to make that playground happen, but they sure do want to know, is this a simple process? Because I don't have a huge staff to help this get up and off the ground. For somebody from a planning and design team. So you can see the differences here. So what we found is oftentimes our clients were putting one message out, trying to reach every single one of these individuals who have very different core desires. So why is that important? Well, this slide is always very interesting to me. They update this every year. This is what happens in the internet, on the internet, in 60 seconds. Do any of these stats stick out to anyone? The one that sticks out to me, 22,831 visits to ChatGPT. That stat was not on there in 2022. How many of you feel like you can't keep up with all the platforms that you have to put your messaging out on digital? Yeah, exactly. There are quite a few new ones on here, 10 to 8 to 15 different types of targeted audiences through your business and through your messaging. You have to break all of this noise. And so how do you know where to go? How do you know which platforms to use? How do you know what's going to be most effective with your target audience? Well, now that you've broken down your target audience into these core personas, you can start doing an exercise that we call ecosystem mapping. So where do they go in a day? I would really suggest putting your persona at the center of a circle and starting to think through that person. Picture somebody that utilizes your product, your service, and your organization. Or if you're a nonprofit, I always say picture a board member, picture a volunteer, and picture a consumer of your services. Those are 3 separate. And picture a donor. Those are 4 separate people that interact with your organization. Where are they going? What are they doing during the day? Where are they consuming their content? So we'll go back to our example of mid-states recreation. You can see here, we've got the principal in the center of the ecosystem map. Where would he go or she go during the day? They would interact with friends and family. They're going to interact with students, parents. Where are they finding their news? Is that through a newspaper, a physical newspaper that you need to put an ad in? Or is that online through a digital subscription that you need to target? What social media platforms are they actually using? So not just all of the ones that you saw on that last slide, but what are the ones that this particular persona is visiting? And how is that different from a PTA member? Where do those cross over? So starting to map those out. What platforms do I see consistently across all of our target audiences? First, which are the ones that are unique to that one persona? That helps us really narrow down where do we want to be, and it helps us narrow down that messaging. So it's not the exact same content across all of those channels. It's content that's created specifically for that consumer, for that user. So you can see the differences here for just 3 of their personas, and as I mentioned, they have 7. So oftentimes what we find is that our clients have started to throw marketing plans out there that are intended to take a one-size-fits-all approach. As we start to target, we can use these in a lot of different ways. So those of you that raised your hands and said you've been delivered an ad through a feed because you mentioned being interested in a Chevy Silverado truck, for example. You had your phone out, you mentioned you were going to go to the local dealership and you were going to go look for that. And all of a sudden, what do you know, tomorrow, you see it, you see it. Okay, well, those are audience personas. What have we done? We've taken these groups and organizations of people that we know we want to target, and we've loaded those into these digital targeting systems. It becomes much easier when we know exactly who we're trying to reach. For recruiting new board members, for instance, you can start targeting different demographics, different people. If you have a skill set that you're looking for on a nonprofit board, you can say, please target men and women that are 30 to 65 that have experience in accounting or business management, and say that we have an open board position. So these are the ways that we start to use these targeting capabilities as we start to refine our target audience as we move forward. So next, we create a journey map. Now this is really small and I don't expect you to read that from here. But one of the things that we found that's really important is walking through the customer experience, donor experience, board member experience, whoever you're focusing on as that person. So put yourself in their shoes. How many of you have started a process where you started researching buying something, whether it's a car or a house or even just a new pair of shoes? You start researching that process and all of a sudden all communication stops from that person that you were working with. You get to a point where you've identified a gap in their process. Either you weren't ready to make a decision right then, or they had other things come up and they weren't utilizing things that are automating that process to keep themselves front of mind in front of you. Why is this important? How many of you know how many people do research online before even picking up the phone or contacting a business? Does anyone know what that percentage is? I see a 70 guess, 70%. Anyone else? 80? 97. 97% of consumers do research online before they pick up the phone, before they click an email, or before they contact you in person to say, hey, I'm interested in what you have to offer. So this journey map becomes really important. So that's looking at your website from a customer perspective. Can I easily find everything that I would need to find, realizing that they're going to do this research before they even talk to me, before I even know that they're interested in what I have. So this journey map helps us identify what are those gaps in those services and where do we, as an external, unbiased person, see the gaps in the service that they can't understand what this company is offering or what the next steps are that they need to take to get that figured out. So next we start walking through a sales funnel. Now this is an interesting part in the process when we get with companies where we start realizing, as we all know, that marketing is really incorporated into a lot of aspects of the business. So I mentioned the stat of how many people do research online. Now, how many different sources do you think they go to before they make that decision on average? It's 7.9. That's the stat. So Draconia Media says that 7.9 different information sources are involved in someone's research for a buying decision before they've even reached out to them. So this is where we get into a really big conversation with many of our clients. This is where process and operations start to come into play. And if you need a good story about this, I'm sure Dan Freeman would be very willing to discuss this with you. But an entrepreneurial operating system is one of the things that we incorporate with our clients when we get to this point. How many of you have heard of EOS, entrepreneurial operating system? Okay, great. It's a wonderful system that allows you to start implementing processes and make sure that your entire team is on the same page. What this system allows us to do is really identify gaps in those processes. And so the sales funnel is really important. It's an important thing to go through: the awareness stage, the consideration stage, and the decision-making stage. What I always find the most interesting and fascinating about this graphic, now this is an example of another client of ours in all the different aspects of their sales funnel. But really, the first two, the awareness stage and the consideration stage, are done before you even realize that you have someone interested in what you have to offer. So making sure that there are things that are set within your website, within your social media, within your direct mail pieces. Are there places where they can download information to learn more? So for instance, if we go back to the Mid-States Recreation example, they actually have a download your guide to fundraise for your playground. That's obviously targeted towards PTOs or MPO organizations, but that allows then that company, Mid-States Recreation, to know this is a person who's connected to a PTO. This is a person who's at the fundraising stage for their property, and they need our help. then you can follow up and your sales team can follow up from there. So ensuring that you've got plenty of places within the awareness and the consideration phase for that person to let you know they're interested, we call those lead generators, is one of the most game-changing things that we do. So these can be really quick things like download our top 5 tips for, and then whatever you might offer. So these are things that are really important to continue to know who are your leads, what are they looking for, and close on those leads, move them through that sales awareness process. One of the questions we get is artificial intelligence. How are we using them? How many of you are using ChatGPT or something similar in your business? Like, do you want hand, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6? Okay, not too many. How many of you have no idea what ChatGPT is and have never heard of it before? Okay. Okay. So we're going to talk about AI and why it's important. So ChatGPT is a website that you can go to and you can type in a question. So write me a blog post about why I should consider Mid-States Recreation to build my new playground at my school. Well, that's great. It'll give you a really excellent basic response. But the prompts that you put into ChatGPT are really what makes the difference. So for example, I gave you, and again, this is very small, but I gave you the initial prompt that we built out, and it's an actual code that we built out and put into ChatGPT. Why is this important? So this was for RES. All of those user personas, and RES Auction Services actually have 15 of them. They're one of our most complex clients that we've ever worked with. But if you can imagine, we've got a consignor persona for every asset that we sell, and a buyer persona for every asset that we sell. And so there's quite a few. So when you put in a basic prompt into ChatGPT, you're not telling it what you really want it to return to, you're just asking it a question. When you start identifying your audience personas, you can type in some really cool information. It says, respond to me as a firearms consignor who's interested in consigning their firearms at RES Auction Services. And then you can say, write me a description for, and then you can type in the exact name of that firearm that they're consigning. Because you put this in your code, you've told ChatGPT to become a cursor. So as you can see here, and I know this is small to read, after we enter that code, it actually returns in, hi there, I'm RES Bid SEO, a specialist with expertise in creating SEO optimized product descriptions for auction houses. So it's already known and built in who is the personality that you're responding at. So this extra step in trying to get a ChatGPT code that is really identifying exactly who you're talking to saves you all the steps in your prompts from there on. So you can see next, all we enter in is the name of a piece of heavy equipment here. So Komatsu PC138. ChatGPT returns an excellent description of exactly what that piece of heavy equipment does. Next, I put in, write me a real estate description for 45 acres of vacant land in Glenmont, Ohio. Because I've taken the time to say exactly who we're targeting, it's spitting out details that are exact and specific. Is this 100% of the way there? Can you copy and paste this and put this on an advertisement? Absolutely not. But it's 85% of the way there. So you can go in and have your specialist or your marketing team really take a look at this and customize this, but it saves you a significant amount of time. So these are really great examples of how AI is saving us time, how content creation is becoming even more rapidly changing, but also really more effective and more targeted. And why identifying your audience personas to know exactly who you're talking to makes this result so much stronger. Because again, instead of show up and bid on this Komatsu, you can target that to exactly who you think is going to buy. So it knows that this Komatsu PC138 is likely targeted towards a male who's 45 to 60 years old, who's living within a 100-mile radius of 375 Fry in Worcester, Ohio, and their interest car, and it can rattle at all because that's been built into the code. So what it turns back to me is much more specific in terms of the marketing content and product that it's going to be back to us. Another way we're using AI. How many of you have heard of IBM Watson? Sound familiar? Anyone heard of them recently? They've really delved into AI, and one of the products that we use on a daily basis is TouchUp. I know, Seth, I'm going to call you out. But Seth and I worked on this with one of their billboards for Whitaker Myers, and it's really, really interesting what it gets back to. So it's been logging information for years. IBM Watson has been around for quite some time. And what it's figured out is where our eyes go as we're consuming content. So as a consumer, you're looking at an ad, a Facebook ad, a billboard, you're looking at a website page, where are your eyes most likely to go? So what we can do is we can upload creative content into what's called TouchUp, and we can tell you exactly where your eye is going to go, who's most likely to react to it, and we can train our graphic designers to be more efficient with where they put their creative on that piece of marketing. So if you're going to invest in a billboard, you're going to invest in a brand new website, don't you want to know that it's having the results that it should be having? Billboards are notorious for saying, I have a hard time measuring how effective that is. Well, this gives us some data on how effective a billboard is, because it allows us to show you exactly where their eyes are going. So I wanted to give you a specific example. This is Aria. This is a billboard they put up in Holmes County. This was the first design that our graphic designer sent back to us. So you can see it's predicting the order that the eye is going to go to on this billboard before we've even installed this billboard or paid to have it put up. Typically, this would have been the process. We get the artwork back from the graphic designer, we send it to the billboard company, we're done. What do you see with the as the main problem with this design now that you see the boxes on this? The logo. Logo is number 3. So the order that the eye went to for Aria's auction services is number 3. So we changed the artwork ever so slightly, and here you go. So it gives us really great information that helps us ensure that as our clients are really investing in marketing pieces, graphic, digital, or print, that they're sure that what they want to be seen and noticed is actually being seen and noticed. So AI, we all get a little bit nervous about it and say, is this going to replace people? Is this going to make our jobs more difficult? Did any of you watch The Jetsons? Remember watching that? Yes. Okay. Does anyone remember how many hours were in his workday by chance? 2? I always laugh at that example. 2 hours. So yes, AI is speeding up our ability to work. It's speeding up our ability to work faster. Do I think we're going to get to a 2-hour work week anytime soon? Absolutely not. But instead of being afraid of AI, there are ways to embrace it. It's making sure that we're writing content that is effective. It's making sure that the people that we are intending to consume our content can consume it and can see our logo, can see our call to action, can see exactly what we want them to see as a result. So next, how do we create content that converts? Well, with the use of AI, we are able to start integrating things that are really starting to resonate. So this is, again, an example of Mid-States Recreation. I put a number of different types of platforms that we specifically targeted for this PTA campaign. So last summer, they ran a PTA campaign that was specific to the state of Ohio as a test. This was a really, really fun and creative project for us to start to work on. So we started to think, what are those platforms? We went back to that ecosystem map and said, where are we going to reach these PTA parents who are really involved in their school systems? And how are we going to help them? How are we going to help them know that Mid-States Recreation is a choice for them? So the ultimate how-to guide for your community build project. That was a download. So we started running targeted Google ads at people that were searching for things such as how to receive funding for a playground, how to build a new playground near me, playground manufacturers near me. And what came up first and what we found in talking with their sales team, and they have sales team members all over the country, is the #1 request they were getting from this particular persona is help us fundraise. How do we fundraise? Well, we happen to serve nonprofits, we happen to have fundraisers on our team. And so we said, well, we'll write you a startup guide. We'll write you a how-to guide. This is how you start to ask for playground funding. So once they received that targeted Google ad, they were directed to this quick start guide and they started downloading. Within the first 2 weeks, we got 60 downloads. Some of them were from the same school system, that's great. But that allowed us to know, hey, these are the organizations, these are the people within the state of Ohio that are looking to build a new playground right now, or within the next 5 years. It's on their roadmap, right? So next we followed up with an email, was a link to this blog post, how to ask for playground funding. We started monitoring how many views did we get on that landing page. 180. So 60 downloads, 180 views onto that. Now we've got a targeted group. That might not sound like a lot of people to you, but for us, it's the right people. We don't look at number of impressions, look at were those the right impressions? Did we get the right people? Next, we targeted a Facebook ad and an Instagram ad that showed them a video of Patty Hobson. She's one of the co-founders of Mid-States Recreation. She had a child who is unfortunately no longer with us, but that was born with special needs. And the entire reason that they started Mid-States Recreation was a passion project for them because they couldn't find playgrounds in their own community where their son could interact with their other children. They couldn't find inclusive playgrounds that had spaces for them all to play together. So Patty telling that story of her why behind the business allowed people to understand who is this organization. This is a great person. Patty seems really great. She seems to have a passion. She seems to know what she's doing. She's been there. And so that targeted piece sent to those folks was all information that was sent to them before they ever picked up the phone. And this has resulted in 3 playground builds for them in the state of Ohio this year. So that is the example and the power of pulling all of this together, right? So it's very, very, very targeted marketing. Oftentimes we ask, how many impressions did I get? How many downloads did I get? How many people viewed that site? That's all great, but was it the right people? Was it targeted correctly? Is it converting? And then, this is a stat I love. 81% of consumers trust the advice of family and friends over the business directly. Word of mouth strategy. Word of mouth is really the goal that we're always trying to work towards. Did they have a good experience? And how do you share that great experience? So after every single playground build is over, there's an automated email that goes out asking from the salesperson who worked with that client all the way through, asking for a review. That review is automatically generated into a post that's fair. The salesperson then says, you were tagged, your review is tagged. Want to make sure you saw that. And that person oftentimes, because of their experience and their review, wants to share that with their friends and family, leading to word of mouth strategy. These posts are also automatically shared. You can set them up to be automatically shared on your Google My Business profile. That's this little box over here on the left-hand side. If you aren't using this, it's one of the best tools that you should be using for your business. If you search something on Google, you'll see a box show up on the right-hand side of the screen. Have you all seen that before? There's a click to call, there's a click for directions, there's typically a map. People are using this at a much higher rate than general websites. Why? Because it shows that it's a verified business. It shows that people are finding the organization or the business that they were intending to find. How do we know this? This circle down here at the bottom, this blue circle on the bottom of your screen, the bottom left up there, is actually Google My Business interaction for one of our clients for 1 month. 18,037 searches for the client in 1 month on the Google My Business profile. For them, they paid for this a little bit, so they put some sponsored ads behind that, so you can see 350 clicks off of that profile. So for us, we're not a one-size-fits-all, so analyzing is important. So these are the questions that I really encourage you to go back and talk to your marketing teams about. How are we analyzing our results? What platforms are we on? And how do we know that they're working well for us? If it's a digital platform, there's certainly a way for you to measure it. It's really important to understand this data so that you can make decisions. Who are our target audiences? Are we targeting them? Are we honing in on them in a digital way? Because the data is out there. We always say data is only as good as the people who are analyzing the data. But for platforms like Google, for platforms like if you're on a WordPress website, or really any website in general now, Google has great measuring for codes in terms of how customers are interacting with your website. So that top left is what we call a behavior flow chart. That shows us how to interact, how people are interacting with the site, how many pages per visit they're on, and what their exact path is. So anywhere you see a big red drop off on those screens shows that you're losing traffic on that site. So that allows is there a call to action we need to add? Is there something that we need to change on that page? Are they not seeing it? Oftentimes I've run these pages through that touch-up AI software to see, are they even seeing the call to action button? So analyzing your data is really, really important. So at the end of the day, marketing is truly about connecting with people. Again, making people feel seen, known, and heard, not captured. The only way we can do that is to really know who we're serving, to identify our target audiences, to understand exactly what they're looking for from us, what are their core desires, and to put ourselves in their shoes so that we can see, are they finding what we need them to find, so that we can offer a service to them, so that we can serve them. Because at the end of the day, that's what we want to do. We want to collaborate with other businesses and we want to serve each other. So I am happy to take questions. I ran through a very brief exercise again that we do with all of our clients to try to get down to the heart of who are you serving. But I'm happy to answer any questions about marketing, fundraising, or anything else.
Gene, there's a lot of news about AI. And my question is, you hear a lot of people who are afraid of it and it's going to cause all kinds of disruption. And I fully understand how for a teacher, wondering if a student really knows the paper.
Yeah, absolutely.
I get that problem.
Yeah.
Other than that, what's wrong with achieving your grading?
It's a good question. You know, I was just at a conference that was specific to the auctioneering business, and you want to talk about people who are very afraid of it. It was that room, and I think by the end of the keynote presentation, it was about AI. Most of them were convinced to start using it. It's getting better. There are obviously weaknesses within it. I think what's wrong with it is it's only as good as the prompts that you put into it. People who use it don't edit it, don't understand that it's not perfect. When that comes back out, you need to make sure, use your common sense and say, is this answer actually correct? I would say exactly the example you used, school systems, there needs to be policies put in place, right? I've heard of, in your world, attorneys saying, write me a contract for blah, 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 copy, paste, go, right? That's not gonna work, obviously. I'm a huge proponent for it. I think it's only gonna make our work more efficient. It's only gonna make our work faster, but it needs to be something that if you're going to use it, you need to have the correct training to use it. And there are trainings and conferences and places out there or organizations out there who know how to use it really well. But again, I think it's using data in a sound way to make sure that we're being more efficient and effective with our time. And then the question is, what do you do with that? To me, I work with a lot of salespeople. You get a lot of time back. So now instead of doing office work, sitting there supporting what you were able to do previously, you can now go out and actually interact with people more, right? And so I think it's just allowing us to be more effective and more efficient with the time that we have. So you're not going to hear much wrong with it from my perspective. Any other questions?
But it sounded like I just came out of 1950s. I would like you to talk for a couple minutes about cookie policy. When you go on a website, you find that always the blue box that says
we allow cookies accept or don't accept, right? So cookies essentially, I could talk about that for hours, right? And get very technical about that. But the best way to understand it that's applicable to this room is that's tracking your use on that website, right? So that people like me can take that data and use it to market things to you that are more effective to what you're looking for. When you have a search history cleared or you clear your cache on your computer, that's also going to clear all your cookies. So if you're someone that is concerned about your data being stored, your data being tracked on those warnings, right? You can still, in most cases, you can still view the website, but it's basically telling that business or that organization or that code built into that computer, and Brian can probably speak to this better than I can. No, I don't give you consent to store this information or this data. Does that help?
Gene, you mentioned EOS. I'm not sure that many people know what it is. Maybe you can elaborate on it just a little bit.
Why don't you elaborate on it a little bit and how it's helping entrepreneurial operating system? So one of the things that I love about our business setup is we've got a team of about 25 people, and most of them are independent contractors. I say we curate a team of the best in the business. Natalie used to be on our team for quite a long time. We've been having you, but an excellent copywriter. But there is someone that we refer to, what I'd also say is part of our team, named Kendra Brill. and she's an EOS implementer. So EOS is entrepreneurial operating system. So oftentimes marketing is how we get into the door with businesses that understand that, hey, we need to say who we are better. We need to communicate this better. But once we get in there and start uncovering things, we start to realize that, hey, there's a lot more that we need to look into here. The operations aren't streamlined. Most of the team doesn't necessarily know what are the three unique of who we are and who we serve. There are people that are not on the right seats on the bus. So we say right people, right seats. So do you have the right people on your team? And do you know how to identify that those are the right people on your team? Are you hiring and inspiring to your community core values? And so what Kendra does is once we get into a business and we realize, hey, it's really hard for us to identify the target audience because everybody has different answers and they're clearly not on the same page. Kendra comes in and meets with the business owner and says, man, let's get this all on the same page. Does it feel like you're successful in spite of yourself and it's all being held together by duct tape and it's just rolling every single day because you're just scaling so fast and trying to keep up? She comes in and slows that down and starts identifying processes and systems. Entrepreneurial operating system is essentially a people operating system. Gets everybody on the same page, gets everybody speaking the same language, and it allows your business to operate more efficiently and effectively. So that's a service that we refer out to, but it's because to get to the foundational work of marketing strategy, you truly have to know who you are as a company. And we oftentimes find that entrepreneurs, the best qualities about entrepreneurs are that you put your head down, you work, you push forward, you've got creative ideas, we call it CEO whiplash, where today we're focused on this and tomorrow they want it to be focused on this. And so it gets everybody into a really clear plan of exactly where they're going and how they're going to get there and gets everyone unified behind that. So again, that's not something we personally offer, but it's something that we strongly suggest. And Kendra is a phenomenal part of our team that gets that process rolling and then moves it on to marketing from there and clear operations. Good question, Ken. I can't talk that, if that's what you're going to ask me to do. No, I'm not. Well, I can't do the bid calling. You're right. That was good. I'm wondering. You're welcome. You guys have Joseph Nash on your agenda, I think, coming up in a couple of weeks, and you should ask him the bid call because it's the best one in the world. But yes, I have the honor. The auction industry is what we always like to say about 90% marketing and 10% bid calling. So if you think about that, you know, the actual auction, the part standing there and the talking fast that you hear, and then I laugh because those of you who might remember my dad being a bid catcher in the rotary auctions, I always laugh because that's actually a really, really skilled and professionally trained position on our team. And I tell my dad that he's got to revive that and come out and work with us. But that's how people always ask why auctions. Auctions are 90% marketing, and all most people see is 6,000 people on a Saturday at REN. Yes, it is that many. But how did we get those 6,000 people there? How did we target and get the right buyers in the room? How did we get the right consigners to consign their real estate or their firearms and the equipment? It's all marketing, and then the guy gets to stand up there and talk back and do all fun stuff. Good question. Anything else? Thank you all so much. It was a wonderful time.
Thank you so much. It was very informative and relatable as for today's market and where we stand at. So, but in appreciation of your time, we would like to present you this presentation of the Worcester Rotary Wheel. Moving away. This is made locally and by the students of the Village Network. Thank you. All right. So next week we have Jason Carrick with the Everything Surplus. He's going to be speaking on his life as an entrepreneur. And yeah. So with that, I think we stand adjourned. Everyone have a great week. Hey. Yes, okay, what are you thinking?
I think we can draft it with ballot